Hi guys, I'm Dr. Daniel. I started a farm just over 5 years ago with just 800 chickens, and right now I've been able to scale it. Currently I do have over 9,000 layer chickens on that very farm. I've been able to acquire multiple farms. One is about 20 acres, it has goats. This is a 400-acre farm that I do in partnership with someone, and right here we do have breeder chickens. So this is a breeder chicken house, a really great chicken house. And in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you 4 great ideas that will skyrocket your farming business in 2025. If you do implement these things and you're really focused on them, trust me, these are things that I've learned and they should be able to skyrocket your farm to make millions of dollars. So stick around right through to the end. First thing, focus on one thing. You see, when I started out farming earlier on, I wanted to do very many things. In fact, even right now, I actually do a lot of things, and that might sound a bit paradoxical because what I'm doing seems like it's not what I'm talking about, but well, just give me a minute to explain this to you, yeah? So earlier on, what I was doing earlier on is very different from what I'm doing right now. Despite the fact that I'm doing many things, what I was doing at first was completely different. So when I started out, I wanted to do layer chickens, which is actually what I started with. But then I decided to also do quite a number of things that I thought were either, number one, going to cut the costs for me in terms of, raising the chickens, or number two, going to give me additional income, extra income in terms of the poultry, yeah? So here I was thinking, it's better for me to not place my eggs in one basket, yeah? It's better for me to, spread my risk and, try to get the money from as many different places as possible. So at that point, I did the layer chickens, but then in terms of trying to cut the costs, I told myself that I'm going to do black soldier fly farming, yeah? So at that time, I thought, it would reduce the cost for me, especially on the protein side when it does come to farming chickens. But in addition to that, I had considered doing, a free range farm somehow, somewhere. I'd considered doing a broiler farm. I'd considered doing ducks and geese and turkeys and all these things. And then I also wanted to do a goat farm. And my mindset was that all these things are going to give me a lot of income. And so if the poultry farm does work really well, that's going to be money in my pocket. And if the goat farm also does work really well, that's going to be money in my pocket. And if all these things work well, then I'm going to be very rich. Well, that was very wrong because, first of all, when you consider what I was doing in terms of the black soldier fly farming, it requires a lot of focus. It requires a lot of attention, yeah? And here I was, I still hadn't figured out how to efficiently run and maximize the poultry farm. And here I was trying to focus on something else, in this case, black soldier fly farming, because I think it's going to cut the costs for me, yeah? Now, the way you do it is that you become really good at one thing, and then once you've perfected it, then you can concentrate on other ways of, for example, bringing down your cost, yeah? So what I needed to have done at that particular point was concentrate on making sure the farm is running as efficiently as possible. So I'm getting the eggs I'm supposed to be getting at whatever production I'm supposed to be at. The birds are not sick, they have the correct weight. And then if everything is efficient, then I can start saying, okay, how can I bring the feed cost down? Because I figured this out. How can I bring the feed cost down without affecting the efficiency and the quality of the product that I'm producing? Then I can focus on that without having so much to focus on, other things, management, hiring, and all those kinds of things. Yeah. So when I divided my attention, it just meant that I couldn't do everything well. And then until I decided to discard the black soldier fly farming and then pay attention to the farm itself, once I figured it out, then I could pay a bit more attention to, the other things and the other things. And then, in the end, I managed to get to this point. Yeah. And I mean, this is something that you learn with time. So at first, you're not going to focus so much on cost cutting. Cost cutting is really important, but you need to focus on efficiency. How do you get the best product out? How do you run the business as well as possible? Once you do that, then you can start cutting costs, yeah, reducing the cost as much as possible while maintaining the quality, yeah. And the other thing is that, a lot of people believe that you can grow while doing a lot of multiple things, like I thought at the beginning, that I can grow by doing goats, doing chickens, doing broilers, doing layers. That's a big mistake. You see, the thing is that when rich people tell you their stories, they'll tell you that, for example, they have a lot of businesses. So you probably know a rich guy in your area who is involved in tours and travels. He's involved in, hotel business. He's involved in restaurant business. He's involved in construction. He's involved in each and everything. And you're like, how the hell do they do it? I'm going to go and do exactly this same exact thing because this guy is really rich and he's doing all this. And you think that's how they made their money. Now, I'll tell you how rich people actually make money. Rich people make their money mainly from one thing, and once they have made a lot of money, then they diversify that money in a lot of things. It is very unlikely that you're going to break forth or make a lot of money from a lot of things, simply because it is difficult for you to pay enough attention to multiple things that they can give you a lot of money. Yeah, it's very difficult. Yeah, it's not like it's impossible, but it's very difficult. Now, when you're starting a business, you have your farm, you want to give yourself the best chance of success. And how do you give yourself the best chance of success? By paying attention. I personally decided to pay attention and focus on the layers, and then later on do the breeders. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that later on I can't do other things. Now, right now, I'm still doing a bit of other things, but even right now, I'm not paying attention to these things. Now, I've told you guys that I have a lot of other things, For example, in terms of farming itself, I do have, cattle, goats, and sheep, and all these things. I'll tell you guys, the revenue from these things compared to what I get from the poultry is like less than 100 times what I get from the poultry. You can imagine, that's the honest truth, yeah? The revenue from the goats, the revenue from all these other things, it's less than 100 times. And my focus is also less than 100 times on those other things. For example, on this breeder farm, we do have a lot of land. It's 400 acres, so why not have the goats? They'll move around. Probably I'm going to employ 2 people maximum to look after them. And that's it. Nothing much. I do have a vet on the farm, but the vet does help with those animals, but that's not his focus. His focus is on the poultry. And then when he does have the extra time, he can go around and do these other things, yeah? So I don't pay a lot of attention to them. It's different from me saying, okay, let me start this goat farm and I'm going to pay a lot of attention to it so that it makes me millions of dollars and all these other things. Now, I can do that later on. I'll probably need to acquire way more land in other areas and things like that for me to probably get like 10,000 goats. And I can pay attention to it, but right now is not the point, yeah? Because right now there's still a lot of growth that needs to happen, still a lot of expansion, still a lot of things that we need to do to ensure that we get to that point. And for me, dividing my attention so much and paying too much focus on a lot of other different things will simply mean that I can't expand, yeah? So you need to pay and focus your attention on one thing. And then when that one thing grows and expands and it makes you money, then you can get that money and spread it in a lot of other things. Now, when you spread it in a lot of other things, the advantage you have at that particular point is that, first of all, you have more money. And what more money comes with is the ability to hire better people, to hire focused people, so that those people are focused in those areas, yeah? And when those people are focused in those areas, then you have the leverage. Yeah? At the beginning, it was you focusing on very many things. It's difficult for you to do that. But now the only thing you need to focus on is manage other people. And you have the money to, maybe pay a lot of money to someone. Maybe, for me, for example, here in Uganda, I can't just wake up one morning and say I'm going to pay someone $1,000 every month to just look after my goats. I can't. But if the farm then reaches the point where it's making a lot of money, even if the goat farm is not making, so much money, I can hire someone to pay attention to it because I have the hope that in the future it's going to do that, yeah? So that's the advantage of making money, but you need to make sure that you're very focused right from the start. Second thing that's going to completely flip your business around is to focus on short-term goals. Now, I personally, when I started out farming, I had this thing where I had big dreams. Now, there's nothing wrong with having big dreams. There's nothing wrong with having big goals and all these things. But the problem is that if you pay too much attention to the long-term goals, the goals that are far out, whether it's 10,000 birds, whether it's 1,000,000 birds, whether it's 100,000 chickens, whether it's growing 100 acres of maize or tomatoes, whatever you want to do on your farm, then you'll lose track of the short-term things that you actually need to do. What you need to remember is that what happens in the long term is simply an addition of the small everyday things that you do, yeah? So you hitting your goals, or let's say your 1-month goals, your 3-month goals, your 4-month goals, is more likely to have you attain big dreams than you dreaming of huge things in 5 years from now, yeah? And the problem with like dreaming big things is that you pay too much attention to the bigger things that you either, number one, find yourself that the very big dreams feel so out of reach that you don't push yourself to go and achieve them, or number two is that you pay too much attention to the big dreams that you don't even focus on the things that are in front of you, and you end up doing nothing because the big things require big things to be done, but you just feel unable at that particular point and you do nothing about it, yeah? So you need to make sure that you pay attention to the small everyday thing. I'll give you an example, yeah? So initially, when I started out, my goal was, to probably do 10,000 birds, yeah? I was telling myself, once I do 10,000 birds, I'll be good. And I thought I'll do 10,000 birds maybe in 10 years' time. That was the goal. Maybe in 10 years' time, I'll do 10,000 birds. And I could have focused on that. But I knew that I do have that vision somewhere. But what is more important for me right now is to get the birds to produce as well as possible. Yeah. So I actually pay more attention. I don't really care so much about the long-term thing. The only two rules that I do have for myself is reinvest all the money that I get from the farm back into the farm. That's number one. And number two, focus on making the farm as efficient as possible on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. So I look at myself and I tell myself, okay, we are 2 months down the road. We're supposed to be at this percentage of production. Have we hit it? No, we haven't hit it. What do we do to make sure that we hit it better? Yeah. And then I make changes around that to ensure that we hit it better. Now, when we hit it better, then that means that I can have the money, I'll have more money coming in because my birds are, for example, laying at, let's say 92% instead of someone whose birds are laying at 80%. That's a 12% difference. A 12% difference means I have significant cash that I can now reinvest back into the business, which is my second rule, reinvest back into the business. And it's inevitable that I'm going to grow. So because I kept doing that, I've found myself, right now I do have 9,500 birds on the commercial layer farm, at the point where I thought I would be in 10 years' time, in just 5 years. It's only taken me 5 years, yeah? So once you do implement your short-term goals, then you're more likely to implement your long-term goals. There's nothing wrong with having the vision and the goals, the really big ones. But if you pay attention to the short-term ones and make sure that you're consistently hitting them, doing everything that you can each and every day to hit the short-term goals, the things you need to focus on, then you're more likely to hit the long-term goals. Number 3 is focusing on hiring. So you need to focus on hiring. Hiring is such a key thing. Yeah, I personally believe, when the business grows beyond the point where it's not only you running the business, the next important thing is who you hire into a business. It is so important because, when we do start businesses, for example, when you start a farm like me, your goal is to be free. Yeah, your goal is not to have a job. You see, there's a difference between self-employment and entrepreneurship or running a business. Self-employment means you're employing yourself. So if you do have a farm, you're working on the farm. You're working in the farm. Yeah, you're one of the employees of the farm, one of the many or the only employee of the farm. When you start a kiosk somewhere, you're the person who started the kiosk, but you're also running the kiosk. You're self-employed. But an entrepreneur, a business person, starts a business and they can be involved, but the goal is that they step away and let other people run the business and they just let the cash come in. Yeah. So that way they're not tying their time down to the business. That's one thing I've been able to do. Personally, I can step away from the farms for a really long time. Sometimes I can spend a month, 2 months, 3 months without stepping on some of the farms and they're still running well. That's going to be the goal. But how are you going to do that when you don't hire right? Yeah. Hiring is so key. Yeah. And if it means taking a really long time to go through the correct process of hiring the people who are going to be working on the farm, then you need to do that. Yeah, you need to obsess. In fact, forget about focusing. You need to obsess when it does come to hiring. You need to make sure that you're hiring the right people. Now I know what you're going to tell me, that hey doc, hiring is not, it's not easy. Yeah, it's difficult. People say something and then they end up being different from what they say. Yeah, that's true. First of all, you need to understand and learn how to hire, and for that, of course, I'm not going to be telling you guys or teaching you that. There's a lot of videos right here on YouTube about how to hire, how to employ the right people and all those kinds of things, so you can go and check them out. But the second thing is that you need to be free and open to firing people. Yeah. So if you hire someone, of course, you've made terms in a contract and they're on the farm, they've come around, you have your goal and your terms and things like that, and then the person turns out to be not the kind of person that you do require, you need to be ready to let go of them so that you get someone else. Yeah. If it's only 3 months into their employment and they're not doing what they said they are supposed to do, let them go, get someone else. Let them go get someone else until you get the right person on the farm. Yeah. Who you hire is so important, especially the managers, the people at the top. Yeah. So when it does come to farming, for example, a lot of the work involved in farming is not very technical. Yeah. For example, feeding chickens, grazing cattle, or spraying tomatoes. Anyone can do that. You don't need to go to school to study how to feed chickens. Yeah, you just give someone instructions and they have a good heart, they have a heart, a desire to work, most probably they'll do it. But the managers are the problem. Yeah, again, even for managers, you don't really need to go to school, but some of them are, what we call life skills. These skills they're not really tangible skills. Yeah, they're not like you'll sit down and write for someone something. A lot of them are like innate, inborn, but again, a lot of them are learned. Yeah, and these are difficult to come across, very difficult to come across. So you might have to go through a cycle of going through quite a number of employees until you get the right one. But you need to make sure that you focus on hiring. Yeah, and then while hiring, make sure that you pay the people the correct amount of money. Yeah, if you pay someone the correct sum, they are less likely to go away. If someone is going to be making you, let's say, $10,000 a month, what's wrong with you paying them $500, yeah, of that 10,000 or even $1,000? Is it worth it? Yeah. I'll give you guys an example. If I'm going to get someone and I'm paying them, let's say $200 a month, and that person is going to make me $1,000 every month. So I'm paying them $200, they're making me $1,000 every month. If I can get another person and so pay them $1,000 a month, and then they're going to get me $10,000 a month, what's wrong with that? Because the first guy you are paying him $200 is making $1,000. You're paying him a fifth of what you're getting. This person, you've 5 times him, you're paying him $1,000, and he's making you $10,000. He's making you 10 times what the initial guy was making you. What's wrong with paying him 5 times more? You understand? So you need, to focus on such things, pay attention to such things, yeah? Understand the value of the kind of person you are. Some people are easily discardable, some people are not easily discardable. And you need to get the kinds of people who are not easily discardable. Now, of course, you need to make sure that people don't hold you ransom, yeah? For someone to be not easily discardable means they are worth their work. Yeah, and so they're not the kind of person who's going to hold you ransom. Yeah, they're worth their work, they understand what they're doing, and they're getting you great value into the business. So you need to pay a lot of attention to hiring and hire the right people into the business, and that's going to skyrocket your business. And then finally, point number 4. I mean, it's getting quite dark. It's not like night, around 2 p.m., but well, it's getting quite dark. I think it's going to be raining. Yeah. So the last thing, which is point number 4, is avoid credit while dealing with customers. Now, you've noticed these points are all scattered throughout. Some of them are in management, some of them are in mindset, focus and vision. This one is about selling, yeah? You need to avoid credit because credit can cripple a business. If I'm going to be dealing with customers, I would rather deal with someone who's going to pay me just a little bit less, but pay me in cash, than someone who's going to be paying me on credit, because with credit, you're not certain of the future, yeah? I mean, I have people who have failed to pay me for a year, for 2 years, for even longer than that, because of giving them in credit. And, the problem with this thing is that sometimes you can forget, yeah? So sometimes the business could be in such a hard position where you're thinking to yourself, do I keep the product or, just give it to the person and they pay me in credit much later on? Trust me, I'd rather give the product to someone who's going to give me half the price than give it to someone and hope that they're going to pay me someday. Yeah, I would rather do that. From experience, I've learned that it's really terrible, yeah? So you give someone a product and they make you suffer and suffer to get back the money, yeah? Someone who's going to give me half the price, of course, it's a really terrible thing, but I'll still have some cash to help the business flow and run and all those things. But if someone is going to give me nothing, they're keeping my money, and the business needs money to run, yeah? So you need to minimize giving out stuff on credit if you're going to be succeeding as a farmer. And of course, what that means is that you really need to work on getting your market, yeah? Because for a lot of people, giving stuff on credit is like a shortcut for when they don't have market, yeah? That's what you're thinking to yourself. Now, what doctor? What do I do if I don't have market? I have the product, but no one is buying. I'd rather give it out on credit. No, you need to pay more attention and focus on understanding how to actually get your market and deal with your market rate so that you have all people pay you cash, pay you properly and in full, and not credit. Okay, that's really important. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I mean, you can check out a free video I've made in the description about how to, run and take care of chickens on a farm so that you can make great money out of them. Lots of love. Catch you very soon with another video. Bye-bye.